Welcome to Africa Geotrends, your window into Africa's power, progress, and geopolitics. Asterisk before we dive in, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the stories shaping Africa's future. At dawn, the mist over the blue Nile glows like liquid gold. Beneath it, a wall of concrete taller than a skyscraper hums with the heartbeat of a nation. Its turbines have begun to turn. Its waters, once symbols of division and history, now promise something new: power, light, independence. This is not just another dam. It is a declaration, a statement to the world that Africa's time has come, and Ethiopia stands at the center of that awakening. For more than a decade, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, has been one of the most ambitious, controversial, and misunderstood projects on the planet. A $4.8 billion megastructure stretching more than 1.8 kilometers across the Blue Nile, capable of generating over 5,150 megawatts of electricity, enough to power more than half of sub-Saharan Africa's homes. For years, it was a dream on paper, a hope carried by engineers, workers, and farmers who believed that Africa could harness its own rivers instead of exporting its potential to foreign grids. When the first turbines began to spin, something changed, not only in Ethiopia, but across the continent. For the first time in modern history, an African nation built one of the world's largest hydroelectric dams almost entirely with local funding and expertise. No IMF bailout. No Western consortium dictating terms. No foreign power controlling the switch. Ethiopia's dam became more than an engineering marvel. It became a symbol of self-determination. But this is no simple story of triumph. The GERD sits on one of the most geopolitically sensitive rivers on Earth, the Nile, shared by 11 nations, feeding hundreds of millions of lives. Its construction has ignited disputes, diplomacy, and power shifts between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. Yet, behind the politics lies a deeper narrative, a continent reclaiming control of its destiny. Deep in Ethiopia's Benishangul-Gumuz region, near the Sudanese border, lies a structure so vast it has redrawn maps. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam stands 145 meters high, its reservoir stretching nearly 250 kilometers upstream, holding more than 74 billion cubic meters of water. It's not just a dam, it's an artificial sea carved into the spine of Africa. Construction began in 2011 under the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi. His vision was audacious: to transform Ethiopia from a nation of power shortages into an energy exporter. At the time, nearly 70% of Ethiopians lacked access to electricity. Zenawi saw energy not just as a utility, but as liberation, a means to industrialize, educate, and empower. He called the project the Renaissance, a rebirth of national pride. To finance it, Ethiopia did something unprecedented. It turned to its own citizens. Civil servants gave a month's salary. Millions bought low-interest bonds. Farmers, taxi drivers, teachers, everyone contributed. The dam wasn't just government property, it was people's property. That spirit of ownership became the project's greatest power source. As engineers broke ground, challenges emerged: harsh terrain, seasonal floods, supply shortages, and, later, political unrest. Yet, the construction never stopped. Ethiopian engineers, many trained locally and abroad, adapted, innovated, and persisted. Italian firm Salini Impregilo provided expertise, but it was Ethiopian leadership that drove the mission. By 2020, the reservoir began filling, sparking protests downstream. Egypt, heavily reliant on the Nile for 90% of its water, feared reduced flow. Diplomatic tensions escalated, drawing in the African Union, the United States, and the United Nations. Negotiations stalled, but Ethiopia pressed on, insisting that GERD's purpose was electricity, not control. Today, the dam's first turbines are operational. Ethiopia has joined the ranks of global hydropowers, alongside China, Brazil, and Canada. Yet, its journey holds a deeper meaning. The GERD represents an African model of development that defies dependency. Instead of waiting for loans or permission, Ethiopia chose persistence over politics. Across Addis Ababa, you can see the transformation. New factories, electrified villages, data centers, symbols of a changing energy map. In towns once lit by candles, children now study by LED light powered by the dam's current. Farmers pump water through solar hybrid systems. Small businesses run fridges, welders, and computers. Beyond Ethiopia's borders, power deals are reshaping the region. Sudan already imports electricity. Kenya, Djibouti, and South Sudan have signed preliminary grid agreements. The African Continental Power Pool sees the GERD as a potential anchor for an integrated continental grid, an Africa powered by Africa. But the GERD is more than concrete and turbines. It is geopolitical gravity. By controlling its energy destiny, Ethiopia has altered the balance of power along the Nile basin. Egypt and Sudan have adapted their strategies, investing in new reservoirs and renewable projects to compensate. The African Union's mediation continues, proving that African diplomacy can manage African resources without foreign arbitration. At its peak capacity, the GERD will generate enough power to light up more than 65 million homes, cut regional emissions by 10%, and supply clean energy to countries as far as Tanzania. Analysts estimate it could add $2 billion annually to Ethiopia's GDP. But the real gain is symbolic: sovereignty over nature, managed responsibly. Behind the numbers are human stories. In the nearby town of Guba, where the dam dominates the horizon, locals who once lived off subsistence farming now work as technicians and contractors. Women trained in electrical systems now monitor turbine performance. Young graduates from Addis Ababa University are among the team optimizing water flow algorithms. The project has become a living university of African engineering. One of them, 27-year-old engineer Salam Tesfaye, says, "We grew up hearing that Africa imports technology. Now we export energy." Ethiopia's government calls GERD the backbone of its long-term vision, linking energy, industry, and regional trade. The dam's excess electricity feeds into the national grid, powering manufacturing corridors from Hawassa to Mekelle. Cement plants, textile factories, and tech startups all draw from the same current that once flowed untamed down the Blue Nile. International observers have shifted their tone. Once dismissed as unrealistic, the GERD is now studied by institutions like the World Bank and the International Hydropower Association as a model for developing nations financing megaprojects domestically. Even skeptics acknowledge its dual role: green energy engine and geopolitical equalizer. Environmental experts continue to monitor its impact, noting that managed correctly, the dam could reduce flooding in Sudan, improve water regulation, and expand irrigation potential across East Africa. Critics warn of potential ecological risks, but Ethiopia has pledged adaptive management guided by seasonal data. The GERD's success has inspired a new wave of hydro and renewable projects across the continent. From Tanzania's Julius Nyerere hydropower station to Nigeria's Mambilla project, Africa is reclaiming the narrative of power production. As twilight settles over the Nile, the dam's lights shimmer like a constellation of purpose. Its turbines hum beneath the surface, channeling a force older than civilization itself. The water that once symbolized colonial control now symbolizes independence. In the global conversation on climate and development, Ethiopia's dam is rewriting assumptions. While the West debates transitions and offsets, Africa builds capacity. While others calculate emissions, Africa captures potential. The story of the Renaissance Dam is not merely about power. It's about vision, resilience, and ownership. And that may be the greatest energy source of all. You've been watching Africa Geo Trends, where Africa's moves shape the world. If you haven't already, subscribe now and stay ahead of the next big story.